Okay, am I audible? Testing? Okay, I think can. Today I'm going to talk about my implanon experience. What is implanon? Implanon is basically a little implant that they put in your arm as a form of contraception, but of course, as with many other forms of contraception, people use them for a variety of other reasons, like the positive side effects of it. So I'm making this video because when I posted on Instagram story that I had my implant removed, I actually got like many DMs about it from people who I guess always wanted to try it but they didn't know enough about it, or they were scared of it. So some of the questions wanted to know about like what are the side effects. I heard that it's quite bad, I heard that it's not so bad, what was it like? And some of them wanted to know about like the cost of it, because I think if you just Google it, right, it's not so transparent, like exactly what are you paying for, exactly what is the breakdown of the cost. No one really posts their tax invoices online, right? So I'm going to talk about that. And then some also wanted to know about like the pain level. What was it like? Did they bleed a lot? Was it painful to keep it in your arm, etc, etc. Oh, okay, so I'm going to try to answer those questions comprehensively, but also not so comprehensively, because I feel like it's very hard to talk about one form of contraception without bringing in the other forms of contraception, but that's not like the point of my video. Now I'm just talking about this implant right here. So the questions that I got, they were actually quite valid. They were questions that I myself had before I decided to get the implant. However, I am more of like the, you know what, let's just do it and then I'll get my answers along the way kind of person. Maybe I don't have enough like levels of self-preservation in me. Who knows? Yeah, so I think like this should be covered in sex ed, but the thing is, in this country, like sex ed is dismal. That's my personal opinion. You can disagree with me. A lot of people I know, maybe it's my friend's echo chamber, but like we all generally feel that like sex ed in this country leaves much to be desired, if I were to put it nicely. So it's often boiled down to like, oh, abstinence is the best, and then now I will take a banana and I will roll a condom over the banana to show you. And also like let's watch a super graphic video on abortion where you can literally see all the blood and the dead like fetuses and everything. Then the video that they like to choose, right, is always those like very like late stage abortion where obviously there is not much choice, like either it's going to be a stillbirth or there are some kind of complications, and then they're like abortion is bad, etc, etc. No one is going to abort at that stage. They always like to show you like half-formed fetuses, but then like the fact of the matter is, when it reaches that size, most of the time it's not a choice anymore. Like there is a problem, or maybe the baby like died. You want to carry the dead baby till term? I don't get it. So yeah, or like they will show you pictures of STD infected genitals, like this is syphilis, this is gonorrhea, or something like that. Yeah, that's not sex ed, you know. So for a lot of people, like maybe this is just my generation or what, but when we wanted answers, either like you ask a doctor and hope that the doctor doesn't tell your parent, or hope that the doctor doesn't like take down in like the records that this person is asking questions about sex, or like you ask your friends who maybe have experience, or like you Google it, but then like when you Google it, you also can't get the answers that you want most of the time. You know, it's embedded somewhere in an article. The fact of the matter is that if you ask people what they learned from sex ed, the answer is usually like nothing. Oh, I learned that there are condoms. I learned how to roll a condom over a banana. Okay, basically they learn nothing lah. I wouldn't call it an education. So I think that like sex ed should include contraception for both men and women, also the pros and cons of each choice, because they are different, right? And maybe also like the true failure rates, and like most importantly, I think like it should include what to expect from a healthy relationship that includes sex, because that is not covered at all. Like, if you want to push the, oh, you should not have sex before marriage narrative, which is like, if the person chose it voluntarily, it's fine, it's entirely their choice, they are autonomous. But like, the implication is that sex should happen within marriage, which is like a union, right? A union on the physical, emotional, mental, spiritual level, sanctioned by God, correct? So this is the idea that was shilled to me for most of the 13 years of my education within a religious institution. However, nowhere in this 13 years did anyone actually tell me, so what exactly does a loving physical union look like? They just say, oh, you should have sex after marriage. But what should that sex be like? What should you expect from a supposedly healthy relationship? No one tells you anything. Like, what about things like consent? What about things like emotional manipulation? I think that consent should definitely be covered. Instead of just pretending that nobody is going to have desires, let's just scare everybody into repressing their desires. Shouldn't you acknowledge the fact that most people are going to have desires, most people are going to act on their desires? So we shouldn't like make them feel ashamed for it from such a young age, because then they're going to grow up and they're going to develop complexes, and then they're going to like be dysfunctional in a relationship. Then they cannot like have relationships without a side of guilt, and they won't know how to communicate what they want, which is important, right? You need to tell your partner after you are in a sanctioned union, if you want, what you want. And if you can't do that, then what's gonna happen to you? I think like another thing that should also be covered are like how to spot the signs of abuse and manipulation, or like generally what does an unhealthy relationship look like, because it's often tied up with sex, right? I mean, even if you don't have sex with your partner, manipulation can still very much happen when sex is involved. Then you should also learn things like, are you allowed to change your mind without your partner throwing a fit? Like, this is a sign of manipulation. Does your partner behave like they are entitled to your body all the time? That's also a sign of an unhealthy relationship. All these are part of sexual health, so I'm not really sure like why it's not covered. And young people must like either learn the hard way or they learn from their friends along the way. Okay, so that is like how I feel about the lack of proper sex ed in my life and in this environment. But that's not important. So today we're going to talk about the implant, right? The implant, which is not covered in sex ed, just so you know. It looks like this. It's 4 cm in length. I measured it with a ruler. And then thickness wise, it's definitely thicker than a toothpick. I can't really think of anything that can be compared to this thickness. Like, it's definitely thinner than a lollipop stick. It's like it would fit inside a lollipop stick, if that's helpful for your imagination. So where it went was that it went into my arm, my left arm. I had it removed. Today is Saturday. I had it removed on Thursday. So Thursday morning, the whole day Thursday, Friday. Now I'm on day 3. Okay. So can you see the wound here? Alright. Okay. So as you can see, they made the cut here, right? The implant used to exist here. So you can still kind of see like the remnant of a shadow of the implant. So where it was that it was here on my arm, this far from my elbow, this far from my torso. It's just in the middle of it here, this length, 4 cm. Then they made the cut here to insert and to remove. It's going to leave a scar, definitely it's going to leave a scar, but it's fine, I guess. It's just a little bit. You can always tattoo over it. Okay, so now that you've seen the implant, I'm just gonna put it down, okay? It's tiny. So, cost. I have my tax invoices here. I didn't do a replacement, so I think the cost is going to be different from when you replace. I asked my friend who did it twice, and she said, yeah, it's about there, the same price every time. So what happens when you go in there? When you go in there, you make an appointment, you show up, and then you wait for a while, and then you're admitted into a side room. And then after that you have a brief consultation with a very nice doctor, and then she will say like, oh, you understand this, that. She's obliged to list all the implications. Just say that you understand. I mean, you should have done your research beforehand already, right? You should have researched things like patches, things like oral contraception, things like IUD. You should have probably done it already. And then after that, okay already, then you go and lie down on the bed. After you lie down on the bed, they put a sheet over your body like this size, and then there's a hole here. So it's like surgery. It's really like surgery. I mean, it is minor surgery, day surgery. And then after that, they will put like local anesthesia via injection, and that is like the most painful part. Like, you're lying there and then you can't see a thing, and then the needle, it feels huge and it goes into your arm. I don't know where lah, honestly. 他们 near the hole, yeah. And then after that, when they push the liquid in, it burns. It hurts so much, I swear to God. But that is the most painful part. And then you just need to breathe. You just need to and breathe, you know, let the blood flow, and then let the anesthesia quickly spread around your body, because if you hold your breath, right, it's just going to prolong the agony. So after that, they will like poke you with a knife or something, like, oh, does it feel sharp, until like all the parts don't feel sharp anymore. Then they will like cut, and then they will like take something and they will like put in the implant, or they will take out the implant. Then they will put a plaster, then they'll put a bandage. They ask you to put the bandage on for like a day. So all that costs money lah, honestly. So for going in, my fees are broken down into 4 parts before tax. So part 1, consult, new visit, this costs $115. Then because it was my first time, I had to do a urine test to make sure that I was not pregnant, even though I told them there's no way I can be pregnant. So that cost $22. This is the second item, urine test for HCG. I think they're testing something called HCG. $22. After that, ward procedures, insertion of implanon. This is the third item. Insertion of implanon costs $277.50. 277.50. This is the third item. And then the fourth item is drugs/prescriptions/injections. It's called, I might butcher this, etonorgestrel, 68 mg implanon, which costs $222.50. So 222.50. I think like the anesthesia counts under ward procedures, so you pay close to $300 for the doctor's expertise and also for the anesthesia. Alright, so in total that is 115 plus 22 plus 277.5 plus 222.5. Total is $637. This is before GST. After that, you add 7% GST. 7% GST was 44.59. Oh, that's like $45, bro. It's so expensive, right? So total became $681.59. So $681 total for the first procedure. Heart pain, right? Yeah, I know. So when you go back, it will cost around the same price long to replace it, because maybe you don't have the urine test, then the consultation price may be different, but the ward procedure and the implanon is definitely going to cost the same lah. Yeah, so just expect to pay like $500 to $600. Yep. And then replacement is every 2.5 years, even though it lasts like 3 years by right, but they ask you to come and replace it every 2.5 years. So if you divide up the cost, it's not so bad. It's definitely much cheaper than pills. So what I heard is that pills, let's say pills cost like X amount of money, right? Then patches will cost half X amount of money, and then the implant over time will cost 1/4 X amount of money. So implant is still the cheapest option for long term. Yeah, you're gonna pay 4 times the amount taking pills for the same amount of time. And patches, okay, one thing about patches, my friend did patches, right? She said she had it on her leg, but she had an allergic reaction to the patches. It was horrible. Like, she told me that it itched like crazy, her legs swelled up so much that the patch couldn't even stick because it was swollen. And then on top of that, by-right is supposed to stick cleanly, but then it wasn't sticky enough, and then the edges were like peeling off. So yeah, she just does not recommend the patches at all. It was like the most horrible experience. She will never do it again. That's what she said. So for her, I guess the implant is like great. Alright, so the cost of removal, which is what recently happened, 2 items only. Number 1, professional fees, doctor, consult, repeat visit. This is $81, so it's definitely cheaper than the $115 from the new visit. Probably because there's administration to do, but repeat visit, they already have your data, so it's fine. $81. Second one, wart procedure, removal of implanon. This costs $138. So total it's $219 before tax. After tax, which is $15.33, I paid $234.33, so 234.33. So if you want to add it up, just to put in one time, take out one time without replacement, it will cost about a total of like $915. So if you're doing like family planning and you're like, alright, I definitely do not want to get pregnant in the next 3 years, then you go and decide to do the implant, then you will be paying $915 around there to not get pregnant in the next 3 years. Makes it like $300, less than $300 a year. So it's less than $1 a day. If you want to like see if it's worth the daily expense, that's up to you. So that is the cost side. Now I'm going to talk about the side effects. So my side effects, I had the implant in me for 2 years and 4 months. For 1.5 years, whoa, yeah, but okay, for 1.5 years I bled like non-stop. Literally every single day I bled for 1.5 years. After that it slowed down to like I would bleed for like maybe a week, and then I won't bleed for 4 days, and then I'll bleed for a week, and then I won't bleed for 4 days. And then like towards the end, which is like last week only, I would bleed when I'm stressed. So the past year has been extremely stressful for me, so definitely I bled a lot whenever I'm stressed or like not enough sleep. So yeah, the mood swings were just, I wouldn't wish them on anybody. My friend told me that actually oral contraception also makes you very depressed. It does give you bad mood swings as well. So all contraception will give you side effects. It's just a matter of like, do you think it's worth it? Like, can you tahan being sad all the time and moody and not in a good mood, just feeling down about yourself, like hating yourself all the time? It's up to you. I heard that oral contraception has the worst side effects, followed by patches, IUD, etc. And then implant is supposed to have the least intensity when it comes to side effects, but I'm also not so sure about that. I think like more research should be done into this, and surely, like, you know, we can go to the freaking moon. Why can't we come up with a form of contraception that doesn't make you depressed, right? I mean, yeah, it's called hormonal contraception, but how this implant works is that when it's inside your arm, it will like release hormones across time, a bit, that will make it such that you cannot conceive by right lah. But I also heard that from an adult friend of mine that her sister was dead set on not having any children, so she decided to get the implant, despite the implant, she got pregnant and then she gave birth. And then after that she was like, okay, no more, I'm going to stop. So she put the implant again. One child is enough. But then she got pregnant again. So it's not foolproof. I think like my friend said that it seems like God just really wanted her to expand his kingdom. In that case, like who are you to fight with God, lor? Just yeah. But generally the implant is quite safe lah. It's quite safe. My friend, she did the implant. For the first 2 years, she said that she bled non-stop. Yeah, she would bleed for like 21 days and then she would spot for a few days and then going back to bleeding again. It's not great. She called it like hell. It really is hell when you're bleeding every day. You feel like it's not just about like the mess, but it's also like you're just so tired. You're just so tired at the end of it. You're just constantly losing blood, you know, and it feels like you're anemic, and then no matter what you eat, you're still tired. Then you constantly want to drink sugar. It's not great. But then she said from her 3rd year to what's going to be her 5th year now, she had no period and no cramps and no problem. And then again, even in the first 2 years when she was bleeding, she may be bleeding but there were no cramps. Cannot relate, because honestly, when I had my implant, I still bled a lot and the pain is reduced, but it's still bad enough for me to need Panadol. I found that when I take Parasil, it makes my periods shorter and less painful, but I only have Parasil when I get very sick, then I go see a doctor. So my Parasil stash is limited. I usually just take Panadol, but it's not super effective. Yeah, if you take it after the pain has started, it kicks in only like 3 hours later. If you take it right before the pain starts, it mutes the pain down to like 50%. That is just for me. I have realized that my period cramps are not normal. I went to see a gynae about it and she was like, oh, it's hormones, there's nothing you can do about it, just unlucky. And I'm like, life's like that, can't do anything about it, just accept. Yeah, I'm not a stoic, I'm really not a stoic, but like when it comes to your uterus, you there's no choice. Either you take it out or you live with it lor. For my implant, when I had it in here, there was like a permanent yellow bruise on the outside of the implant, probably because it was pressing against the skin. I could constantly see the outline of it, but I could like press both ends. I could like do this and not feel anything, like no pain. So you imagine, I like to feel the ends of it because it felt very funky. So I would like do this and try to feel like, is the implant in the correct place, is it still there? And I would feel no pain at all. So that means that it was inserted extremely well. But my friend, her implant, I think because she didn't have enough like meat in her arm, like 不够肉, you know, so it shifted down. And then because it moved from the original spot, whenever there's pressure or like somebody grabs her arm from behind. And then she told me, at first when they wanted to remove it, to replace it, they cut here and then they like tried to grab at it from the original incision, but then they couldn't reach it because it had shifted so far down that they had to make a second incision on her arm in order to pull it out, and then they would put the new one back into like the first incision. And she said that like it left 2 scars on her arm and it was just like not a very comfortable process. She said that when they were trying to like pull out the disobedient implant, she could feel like it wiggling its way out of her arm, which is like, it's a very like disturbing kind of image, but sometimes like you just can't help it. She's really unlucky lor, I feel. Yeah, and if your arm is not like, she's very thin, like she's bone thin, you know, not like me. So if you have meat on your arm, then it's very likely that it will stay in one spot for the duration of the 3 years and not give you any problems whatsoever. I had 0 problems with my implant, probably because I had a lot of meat to keep it in place. But yeah, I was fairly comfortable. Most of the time I could forget that it was there, and sometimes I would feel it and be like, it's like comforting, you know, you touch it when you're stressed or something. So Overall, would I recommend doing the implant? My answer is still yes. Yes, because the pros for most people outweigh the cons. Maybe I was just kind of unlucky, but I was unlucky from the start. So I feel like I'm not an accurate barometer for whether or not one should go and get the implant. But my friend, she's currently on her 5th year, and she actually wants to like continue. She wants to get it replaced and put a new one, because it's great that she doesn't have a period, and it's great that she doesn't have cramps at all. So she actually wants to go and replace it. For me, I took it out because I wanted to see whether or not my PMS would disappear after the implant has come out. I feel like it would be nice to have a regular period again, even though it is going to hurt a lot, and my cycles are like very weird, like 39 days sometimes. The shortest was 11, the longest was 39 days. So that's just me. As my gynae said, it's just my unlucky hormonal imbalance that I was born with. But I think like for normal people with normal levels of period cramps and with normal period cycles that can be counted on a calendar, the implant is good. I even heard from some people that like it gives you better skin, but I also heard that some brands of oral contraception will give you better skin. Honestly, like the before or after the implant, my skin didn't change. It's always been like good. It's again genetics. If you have acne, like you have acne prone skin because genetics, then you can consider using contraception, because I heard that it does wonders for some people, some brands. Implant, possibly. So that is all from me and my little friend here. I hope that this kind of clears up a little bit what the experience of getting implanon in Singapore is like. Good luck to you if you are going to get it. I hope it goes smoothly for you and you don't have any problems and your side effects are minimal. Okay, so that's all. Okay, I'll see you soon.